Welcome to the Odie's Gym 6-part video series designed to keep you informed and motivated to stay strong on your diet commitment through the 6 weeks of the challenge. This week's topic is emotional intelligence, possibly the most important topic of this entire series. We'll address how emotions can show up as pain in the body, how to recognize triggers, how to deal with them, and I will share a great tool to change emotional habits called the law of octaves, otherwise known as the law of rhythm. Let's go a little bit deeper into how your emotions affect your physical performance through your diet or your way of life. Now, what people don't recognize is that emotions can show up in your physical body as pain. And let me say that again. Your emotions can show up in the physical body as pain if you don't work with them. I'll give you a personal example. Is that years ago I had some back pain and I went to multiple doctors and I couldn't figure out what was going on with my back. And one doctor said, "You're not getting support in certain aspects of your life." And I was like, "No, that's not true, doctor. Man, like my emotions showing from my body, what are you talking about?" And then once I finally got down to it and I got the support that I needed in my life, the physical back pain went away. Another way of looking at this is there's this amazing doctor he passed away, this doctor named Thurman Fleet. And Thurman Fleet was such a successful doctor. He was healing so many people, they had to change the roadways to get to his office because he was healing people at such a fast rate. And one of the things that he said is that many people are not healing when they go to the doctor because the doctor is only focusing on healing them from a physical level. The doctors aren't addressing their emotions. And that's what happens is if you hold on to emotions, anger, fear, or jealousy are examples of emotions. If you hold on to those things, they show up in your body. You go to the doctor and say, "Oh, my wrist isn't working right, or my back isn't working right." And the doctor gives you something to mobilize your back or your wrist. And they give you some kind of pills, but they don't ever address the emotional aspects. And that's what's triggering you to eat certain foods that are causing inflammation within your body or causing you to continue to have those certain conditions. And what happens over time is that people aren't healing physically and they aren't addressing the emotions and they start to have mental problems. This is a huge problem in society today because you look at mental health, a lot of people are struggling with it. It's because we're not addressing our emotions. Oftentimes I like to say that your emotions are actually triggering the things that you're eating. And people think, well, if I want to change my behavior, I have to find another behavior to supplement it. That's not actually the way you want to change. You have to figure out what the trigger is. What's triggering you to go and make that decision to eat those certain foods? What people in your life, what people at work, it could be even a family member, or you could be triggering yourself, or it could be a certain aspect of the way you live your life that's triggering you to go back and eat those certain foods. So what you have to do is recognize where those triggers are and recognize where you have a rhythm in your life. And I'm going to go over on the whiteboard here in a moment on how you can replace these old triggers with new ones. Or another way of looking at it is create a new rhythm where you have an old rhythm. And I'll show you right now on the whiteboard. Let's talk a little bit more about your emotions and how they affect your performance through your diet. Now, that word motion is in the word emotion. I'm going to explain to you how using what's called the law of octaves helps you to perform better. Now, this is not easy to explain. If you have any trouble, please contact me if you want me to go deeper into this. Now, anything that you do in life has a rhythm. You have a heartbeat, and that creates a rhythm in your life, okay? So you have this rhythm, and anything that you start in life, you create a rhythm with it, and that's how you're successful. You create that rhythm, and you keep it going, just like a song. So another way of looking at this is, and I didn't make this up, this actually comes from a guru named G.I. Gurdjieff, and he talked about how people, if you want to create a new rhythm in your life, you have to stay focused on where that rhythm is created and sustain that rhythm. So the way this works, there's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, just like in the musical scale. Now what happens is whenever you start a new rhythm in your life, there comes a point where you may fall back into the old rhythm. So often this happens, like I said, I didn't make this up, is that people get a few steps down the road, they get to 1, 2, 3, and usually it's between the mi and the fa where people start to fall off. And what do I mean by that? Is that people start to get a few steps down the road, they start to fall backwards and fall back into an old version of themselves. Instead, by recognizing this law of octaves, you say, you recognize that you've gotten a few steps down the path towards better success, and then you start to get tired, you start to get lazy, you're like, I'll just go back to eating the same old thing, and you go, oh wait, that's the law of octaves. Coach Odie told me about that. And you recognize that, and then allows you to keep going on your path. And what happens is every time you come around, if there's usually 8 steps, you come back to the beginning. You go do, re, mi, fa, and you're always going to come into these points where you're going to fall back into your old stuff. But if you use this law of octaves or this law of rhythm, okay, there's gonna come like an interval in between each of those steps where you start to fall back into the old you. And everything in life kind of moves either spiraling upwards or you're spiraling downwards. And that's what I mean by falling back into these old habits, because you don't recognize where you're failing. And when you recognize that, it allows you to fail less often. This comes back to what I was talking about with your triggers. That trigger occurs, like you're already successful, you're starting to eat better, and that trigger occurs. And instead of falling back into those old habits, you go, oh yeah, that's my trigger, and that's the law of octaves. And you're like, no, I'm gonna keep eating my vegetables, I'm gonna keep eating healthy. And it allows you to maintain that new rhythm and allow you to continue to sustain your success. And it comes right back to what I talked about in the last video. This is how you attract success rather than repel it, because instead of falling back into old habits, you're attracting those new ones because you have a rhythm and you maintain it. When it comes to your emotions, pay attention to how emotions could be showing up in your physical body as pain. Remember what I said about Thurman Fleet and how your emotions can turn into physical pain and actually turn to a mental condition if you do not address them. Also keep in mind where your triggers are, what things are causing you to go back to old habits. And then when it comes to recognizing those triggers, remember what I said about the law of rhythm or the law of octaves. So you can recognize where you're going to fall back into old habits and replace that old habit with a new one by creating a new rhythm in your life. In next week's video, we'll go over the spiritual aspects of your diet and how you can improve your performance with your day-to-day life. Thanks for watching my video.